What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on Nootropics. Thanks so much for being with me. So I'm going to talk about lower dosing while cycling as an alternative to cycling sometimes, and I'm going to explain. In the meantime, what supports this broadcast are epic nootropic products. Number one, the Cortex stack. Look, I mean, I built this for business professionals initially, just like people that need to get a whole lot of work done and need to feel awesome doing it. But look, if you're a person and you respond well to Cortex, which most people do, it's an extremely useful nootropic stack. You can either buy it singularly or do auto ship at livecortex.com. Auto ship is where you get it cheaper and it gets shipped to your doorstep automatically every month. Get the Cortex stack. New to Nootropics. Nootropics Ground Zero is a video course that I created to show you the ropes, give you some stacks, give you a framework for how to properly use nootropics, probably save you about 3 years of time and experimentation and money. Nootropics Masterclass, if you're in a couple years but want to learn more and get some really, really detailed strategy on how to get better results with nootropics. If you're a guy that needs to race test, Viking Testosterone Protocol so far has not failed, with the exception of people that there's something really, really major going on that is preventing them from making tests adequately. And then lastly, if you're a business person, I mean, look, I usually like to work with younger or middle-aged business men who are in the need of or the interest of extreme brain performance for considerable periods of time throughout the day. And they also want to optimize functional energy and hormonal baselines to basically just feel really, really awesome a good bit of the time. Either 3.5 months or 6 months. Get on board with those consults. There are open slots for both at the moment. Okay. Oh, there's my cat. Perfect timing. So look, I am an advocate for cycling nootropics. I do it all the time. I think it's necessary. You're modifying neurotransmitter receptor sites, neurotransmitter systems in general. And, like Tim Ferriss says, there really is no biological free lunch. That has consequences downstream. Now, getting really complex about it, what I've learned over the years, stubbornly wanting to continue taking nootropics, is you can actually modify those consequences by modifying receptor function so that you don't have a desensitization, a ligand-induced desensitization of a particular neurotransmitter receptor site. And sort of keep the effect very pronounced. I even got into taking certain chemicals. If I felt like I was reaching that point of desensitization of a receptor site, I would co-administer things that upregulate the receptor site. So you can certainly do that if you choose, but ultimately it's more work. So less work is cycling, and it's ultimately a good idea to take a couple days off, maybe the weekend off, maybe an entire week off, maybe two. I've had times where I've taken a month off. I've taken more off nootropics and then came back, circled back, and everything was just better and more pronounced. However, there is a strategy that you could execute, which I'm going to explain to you, of basically lower dosing, almost halving your doses or a little more than halving your doses while you're trying to cycle on the stacks that you've already identified work really well. So I'm going to give you a couple examples just to illustrate the point. So say you have a stack of 700 milligrams of aniracetam, 200 of CDP choline, and 100 of dynamine. That's just one of your stacks that you've identified, hopefully through a process that you respond really well to. It gives you good memory, gives you good energy, gives you some verbal fluency, makes you execute work. And you're in a place where you're wanting to cycle off because potentially the effects aren't as good as they used to be, or you're just sort of using that rule of thumb of cycling off after 3 or 4 days of consistent use, or even, for some people, a month or two of consistent use. You would definitely want to cycle off at that point. What you would do with this principle of just lower dosing while cycling instead of cycling completely off is you would rearrange the stack thus. 300 milligrams of aniracetam, that's down from 700. 75 milligrams of CDP choline, that's down from 200. And then 25 milligrams of dynamine, that's down from 100. Now, of course, you're not going to get the standout effects that you typically may get or got in the beginning with the original stack, but this is a good way to stave off receptor desensitization and tolerance for the stack that you're taking. Some people can get away with, instead of cycling, they just lower the doses pretty extremely for a couple weeks on their stacks. The good part about it is you will stave off tolerance doing this. And the other good thing about it is you still get a nootropic benefit from it. When I do this, I'm still okay, I'm not an ultimate performance monster at the moment, but I feel pretty good, you know, and I'm getting work done. That's all that ultimately matters. Okay. Another example. So if you're taking 200 milligrams of modafinil, 200 milligrams of centrophenoxine, and a B complex, I've seen this stack before, then you would just want to lower it, in this case of lower dosing as sort of a cycle strategy, to 50 milligrams modafinil, 50 milligrams of centrophenoxine, and then half of a B complex. You can actually do that. I do that because if I take a B complex too consistently, and sometimes I take B complexes twice a day, it will get to the point where it starts to elevate my heart rate a little bit and just make me on the border of like, if there's any more of this, and I might just get anxious about random things. So I'll dump half of the capsule out. So your revised stack of 200 modafinil, 200 of centro, and a B complex becomes 50 of modafinil, 50 of centro, and then a half of the B complex. Again, staving off tolerance, but which is a good thing, and still getting effects. Like if I took that, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily stack centro with modafinil, but I see people do it. Like I have better options if I want to bring choline in. CDP choline works better for me in that particular situation. But I mean, this is how I would reduce the dose, and that dose there, 50 of modafinil, 50 of centro, half B complex, like I feel pretty good. And sometimes you have to accept feeling pretty awesome and functioning pretty greatly, but just not at your highest capacity, and that's necessary when trying to use nootropics long term. That is the key critical takeaway. Like if you want to be doing this for the next 10 years. You know, which if you can do it correctly, you can absolutely do, and I would suggest that you sort of have to do it this way. Last example, just to really hammer the point home, if your stack is one of the stacks that you figured out works really well, is 10 milligrams of Noopept, 100 of alpha GPC, and then a whole gram of oxiracetam, then that stack would simply become something like 5 milligrams of Noopept, so you split the dose in half, 40 milligrams of alpha GPC, and 400 milligrams of oxiracetam instead of a gram, okay? So you guys are getting the point, right? Like you could sort of extrapolate that model to every stack that you take. You're really kind of, you know, half to a little below half dosing your regular dose of things to prevent tolerance in the situation where you feel like you need to cycle. And usual indicators that you need to cycle are tolerance problems with the stacks that you're taking. They're just not hitting home the way that they used to. They're not as powerful as they may have been in the past, and that's showing on your quantifiably on your productivity results. Lower dosing while cycling. Some people need to cycle, some people can get away with lower dosing. Ultimately, some of these folks that I've worked with that lower dose during the time that they need to cycle were successful for a pretty long time, and then eventually we do get to the point where they've got to cycle. And that's just some of the stuff we work in on bigger consults, trying to figure out for each individual. Yeah, the dose and the dose obviously, but the frequency of usage of particular stacks that we've hammered home as being useful stacks. Okay, so hope that makes sense. Thanks so much for watching, guys. More videos to come. In the meantime, go to livecortex.com, support this broadcast. Get up out of the Cortex stack, 6 years strong, used around the world, 38 countries now we ship to. It's just a very powerful nootropic stack. I take it when I want verbal fluency, motivation, mental energy, just the will to do stuff. The product manufacturing company that makes Cortex, it's a company called Nutriscience Labs in Farmingdale, New York. The guy that I work with there, his name is Frank. He took it initially when I was having them put it in a product and manufacture it, and he's like, dude, man, it like got me locked in. You're on to something very powerful. That was 6 years ago. Anyway, get it singularly or do auto ship, livecortex.com. You guys know the drill. Nootropics Ground Zero if you're new. Nootropics Masterclass if you want to ascend to the 6-year mark. If you're a guy that wants to race tests and doesn't want to go on TRT, I have an effective solution for you that is largely natural. I mean, we're not using drugs or TRT. It's called the Viking Testosterone Protocol. And then lastly, yeah, look, if you're a middle-aged business person or a young business male and you know, maybe you have some brain performance issues that you need to correct so that you can perform better, or you're performing like pretty okay, but you want to take it to the next level and have the capacity to be 3 or 4x more productive than you are now. Look, we can make that happen. You know, neuroscience and neurotransmitter modification with nootropic chemicals, if you understand it, can do very, very powerful things for your output. Work with me, 3.5-month basis or 6-month basis. Let's get a lot done. You can get either of those packages at livecortex.com, and any of the stuff we have, including the PSSD stuff, Email me if you have questions. Please, let's talk about it. Let's get on a phone call. Ryan@livecortex.com. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Talk to you soon.